What's up, Horn Frog Nation? Frogs win, and look at us. Who'd have thought it? Not me. TCU is 8-4 to finish the 2024 season. I mean, this is where a lot of us thought that maybe TCU could have been in the offseason, maybe a little bit better. So at the end of the day, you meet expectations, but you do it in a little bit of a funky way. And we're going to talk about it. That's the big question, in addition to breaking down this Cincinnati victory that we need to answer here tonight. Are you happy with 8-4? There is a link in the chat. If you want to call in, please be a part of the conversation, be a part of the show. But before we get into this conversation about the Frogs and renewing the rivalry successfully with former Conference USA foes, the Cincinnati Bearcats, you know I need some things from you. If you're watching this on the TCU channel, be sure you subscribe to that TCU channel at TCU VOCFB, or of course, Big 12 VOCFB. Love to have you to subscribe to both channels. We're trying to grow both of these channels, turn them into a thing, turn them into a staple of your college football diet here. You know, we just had a big feast at Thanksgiving. Now we're going to give you a college football feast, so long as you subscribe to these channels. You know, you can watch the Biggest 12 every single Tuesday night. That's my Big 12 show. Some might even say it's the biggest, okay? Which is why you should subscribe to it. So that's that there. And then also make sure you're subscribing to my socials at Clint_Foster55 and at Clint Foster Comedy, my personal YouTube channel. We'll have TCU fans during the Cincinnati game for you. Hopefully Monday night. We'll see. We'll see how my my next 2 days look. But I'm gonna get it. I'm working on the script right now. So I, of course, am Clint Foster. Yes, host of the Biggest 12, host of TCU Postgame Live, which you are watching right now. And let's talk about this victory over the Cincinnati Bearcats. The first time, by the way, that I can ever recall watching TCU play in the snow, like the real, actual fluffy snow, not wintry mix, not freezing rain, not sleet, not just general wintry nastiness, which we've seen a lot of that. I mean, the coldest game I've ever been at in my life was my freshman year at TCU in 2009 at Air Force. It was like something like -19 wind chill, and it was like this sleety, icy, it was awful. It's terrible, but not like, not fun, fluffy snow. I don't think I've ever seen TCU playing fun, fluffy snow. So that's been fun. And, was it the funnest game to watch? It was a little messy. It was a little, dare I say, boring at times. But the Frogs got the win over their former Conference USA rivals, 20-13. I got to say there, though, close to the end of this game, when it looked like Cincinnati might be coming back, I was about ready to swear off any and all former American Conference games in the future, right? Frogs lost to UCF. They lost to SMU. They lost to Houston. And I was like, if we lose to Cincinnati, we are never playing any of these teams again. Okay, I'm going to get Donati on the phone. We're going to make this happen. I'm done with it. I've had enough, right? But Frogs pull it out. And it is. We'll get into the N4 conversation in a bit. Let's finish breaking down the game. Frogs jump out to a pretty big lead. I want to say 20-7 at halftime, and then the snow starts, and then the offense grinds to a halt. What was initially looking pretty good. Hoover was slinging the ball around the field. He was finding a lot of different receivers. Some of you, if you were watching the stream on ESPN Plus, you heard them say that TCU for the first time ever had 4 receivers with over 600 yards receiving this year. That is crazy. How are we going to replace all that production? That is a question for an off-season show, right? But that Josh Hoover has had a lot of weapons, and he had himself a decent little day. 18 of 35. 212 yards and interception. I mean, in weather like this, you get a win how you can get it. And when you're a team like TCU that does not run the ball very effectively, you're happy with, as Gary Patterson used to say, winning by 1 point, right? You only got to win by 1 point. Frogs were favored to win by 2. They end up winning by 7. That's a victory in my book. Your leading rusher on the night, Hoss Haney, or as one of the people I was watching it with this evening said, House Heine. That's not his name. Hoss Haney, 8 carries, 48 yards, does retain his red shirt. This is the 4th game that he's seen action in. So, take from that what you will. Did we bring Haas in more often because we're trying to throw him a bone because Savion Williams wasn't as available? Who's to say? But Haas did go through his paces. He got 8 carries there. Savion, by the way, I am going to be very interested because I kind of don't expect him to play in the bowl game. I wish he would. But I kind of, if you're a guy like Savion Williams who is, being, run into the ground essentially by the way the TCU offense runs almost entirely through you, do you want to risk injury in a Texas Bowl when it could hurt your draft stock? I don't know. I wouldn't begrudge him sitting out. I wish he'd play. This may have been the last game that we ever saw Savion Williams play. But, it was a pretty good one for him. 3 receptions, 15 yards. Also 8 carries, 10 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both of the Frogs touchdowns on the day, courtesy of Savion Williams. Who else, right? Of course it was Savion Williams. Now, when we're talking about receivers, we should definitely highlight Blake Nowell. 3 carries, 75 yards. He should have had more. Right, he had one that was right in the breadbasket that he dropped, but generally a very outstanding game for Blake Nowell, just hitting him high over the top there. And Jack Besh goes down with a knee injury, so prayers up for Jack Besh. Hopefully that's nothing too serious. Some of what I was seeing on Twitter was indicating that it could be serious, but we certainly don't want. He really burst onto the scene this year in a tremendous way and seems like an awesome kid. And I certainly don't want his future to be in doubt because of a potential knee injury. On the Cincinnati side, Brendan Sorsby showed you why he's a quarterback that I've been fairly high on all year. 21 of 34, 160 yards and an interception. Not as good of a day as Josh there, but better quarterback rating, if you can believe that. 79 QBR to Josh's 51.4. And Cincinnati ran the ball very effectively. Right? I mean, would you expect anything less? TCU's defense has looked, dare I say, slightly better against the run since Marcus Deal came back. But still, Corey Kiner, 23 carries, 110 yards and a touchdown. Brendan Sorsby, 12 carries, 93 yards and a touchdown. You got 2 guys sniffing the century mark there. That's not ideal, right? And especially in a snowy game like this, a cold game, the expectation is that you're keeping it on the ground. Frogs this year have struggled to stop the run when everyone in the stadium knows that that's what's happening. And hopefully that is something that can be fixed before next season. Hopefully with another offseason under Avalos, another offseason of the transfer portal and recruiting, you're getting Avalos's guys in there. We've got 2 really exciting JUCO D tackles committed right now. We'll, of course, talk about signing day whenever that happens. But you hope this defense is able to take a step forward, right? Another thing that was troublesome in this game, and troublesome all season. I mean, the offensive line hasn't been up to snuff, right? Frogs are not able to run anywhere near as effectively as Cincinnati. As I mentioned, Haas Haney is your leading rusher with 48 yards. Next leading rusher is Cam Cook with 26. Running backs have still not gotten going all year. Right? Savion, you're having to manufacture a run game with Savion. What happens to change this offensive line? I did like that I saw a lot more of Ryan Hughes and Ben Taylor Whitfield in tonight. Love that. Hopefully another off season of continuity with these guys and getting Carson Bruno back. Hopefully you see some steps forward, but this has been 2 years of a TCU offensive line that has really not been up to snuff. Just not been physical enough. Getting blown off the line or just stopped at the line very often. They did a lot better in pass pro this year, which is good, right? Josh needed that, but it's not where it needs to be. Is this a situation where you're moving on from AJ Riker? I mean, I never want to see anybody lose their job, but I think that the coaching staff would be, I think Sonny Dykes would be within his rights if he wanted to make a change at offensive line coach. But again, that's a conversation for the offseason. And also it's going to be interesting to see how this offensive line looks in the bowl game, right? With a month of preparation, essentially, because more than likely, the rumblings I'm hearing is Texas Bowl from some fairly reliable sources. That's a game on New Year's Eve that gives you a full month to prepare. If the offensive line can take some strides there, maybe you're feeling okay with completely riding with the staff as if going into next season. But I mean, so here we go. Let's talk about 8-4. So I was about to say, I think that this staff has done enough with that one exception of saying, okay, you're rolling with all of these same guys next year. You're giving them, finishing 5-1 down the stretch is awesome. It is. As disappointing as the beginning of this year was, it is shocking how much this team has been able to improve. Now, has the back end of the schedule been a lot easier than a lot of us anticipated? That absolutely, that is also true. But you played UCF, you played Houston, you couldn't beat them early on. Now you're playing like the team that everybody thought you were supposed to be, right? Against these teams that you're favored in most of these games, except for Baylor, which was basically a push. And, I don't begrudge, I hate losing to Baylor, but I don't begrudge the coaching staff losing that game the way that we did. It's frustrating, right? Not being able to stop the run. But again, that's just your weaknesses are what they are. So tell me what you're thinking. Are you happy with 8-4? I mean, it's a complicated question, right? Baseline for me, I say yes, right? 8-4 was kind of what I was anticipating going into this year. That was kind of my baseline of like, hey, if we win 8 games, I'm feeling okay, right? And those are probably, I'm expecting, hey, maybe we lose to a Utah, maybe we lose to an Arizona and Oklahoma State, and we drop a dumb one when we're not supposed to, right? What has been frustrating about this year, and I said this last week, and I think I said it another time, it's not that you lost games. It's who you lost those games to and the way in which you lost those games. Being up 28-7 on a UCF team that just got rid of their coach and finished 4-8 is pretty dadgum frustrating, right? When all it came down to is stopping the run and running the ball yourself, and you couldn't do those basic fundamental things of football. That is something that when you look at the grand scope of the season, that's frustrating, especially when you bear in mind, hey, if we win that game, if we hang on to a 3-touchdown lead, we're probably playing in Arlington, right? It's a whole different vibe. And if you show up against Houston, right, that's another one. But, at the end of the day, it's an improvement over last season, which you're back in a bowl game. This should be like the baseline for TCU, okay? 8 wins, 7 making a bowl should be the baseline, even in a rebuilding year. Okay. We have risen our expectations to a level where that is the necessary outcome, right? We shouldn't have to be okay with missing bowl games, and I mean, the old heads, I get it. Like TCU, we used to be terrible, but we're not anymore, right? We're not that team that makes a bowl game once every 20 years. Our expectations are higher, and they should be higher. Right? In this day and age of college football, you should have high expectations. If you're not relevant, you're going to die in this era of realignment and rapid change, right? And NIL and competition in that way, right? So I'm okay with it. And I'm really happy with, I would much rather see us finish strong than falter down the stretch, right? That's another thing that makes me really happy about this 8-4 versus kind of how a lot of us were anticipating the 8-4 happening. Like, oh, you get off to like a 6-0 start, and then you drop a lot of these games late, right? I think that is a worst case, especially bearing in mind what we know now about the strength of our schedule. I mean, ultimately, any bad feelings about this season, it all boils down to missed opportunity, right? It all boils down to when you look at the grand scheme of things and you look at how wide open this conference was. Dang, I wish we could have taken advantage of that, right? That's what you're sitting there saying to yourself. Am I right? You're sitting there saying, oh my God, right? If TCU was who we thought they were, right, then we could be hoisting that championship trophy in Arlington, right? But that's not how things go, right? And also, what's to say? We missed Iowa State, we missed Kansas State, we missed Colorado. If we had any of those teams on the schedule, are we still 8-4? Are we still happy with that? I feel like I'm happier with 8-4 if we had those teams on the schedule, right? But there's so many variables, right? Landon, here we go. Word. Best possible 8-4. I'm damn satisfied with the season. There you go. Yeah. I mean, is it what you're asking Santa for? This kind of an 8-4 season? I mean, no. But hey, it's good. It's all good. It's satisfactory, right? As they used to put on the report card, right? Satisfactory. You're doing all right. Okay. Now, next year, though, next year's kind of where the rubber meets the road, right? I mean, if you're not in the Big 12 championship conversation next year, then I think that seat warms up again, right? And again, that's just the nature of the beast. We got high expectations, and we shouldn't apologize for having high expectations. And we've got a level of talent in this program right now that we have not had ever, right? Now, you look at those Coach PT here. That's not true. Okay. 2014 is the best TCU team ever. It is, bar none, point blank, period. And that is talent-wise, right? But largely when you're looking at Gary Patterson teams, it came down to work ethic, came down to attitude, came down to having a chip on your shoulder, having something to prove, right? There is just a boatload of raw talent, especially at skill positions, these last 3 years at TCU. And you shouldn't apologize for saying these teams ought to be able to be competing for championships, right? 8-4 this year, I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. Next year, you better take that next step, right? If you're in the basement in 2023, then we're middle of the road, upper middle tier, 8-4. Okay, so next year, let's take the next step. Because here's the thing, y'all. This conference is going to be wide open again next year, right? Colorado is going to be starting over from scratch. They may not even have Deion Sanders next year. Kansas State, they'll be good again, but they're again having a mid-tier year. Iowa State's probably your favorite next year, right? That's probably the team to beat next year, just off the dome. Okay, but who else? Why not us, right? Why not us? It ought to be us. And if it's not us, again, that's when you have some problems. Okay. Hey, Landon, great point. We have the same record as A&M. I would be scared to see them in our poll. Oh my God, yeah. As much as I would love to, here's the thing. I would love to beat A&M. I don't know that we would, right? So give me an LSU, give me a Vanderbilt, give me an Arkansas. Let's not give me A&M. Not this year. I don't want A&M this year, right? We can't keep getting A&M in bowl games when our team's just kind of okay. Right. Last time we played A&M for you young heads, 2001 of the GalleryFurniture.com Bowl. We weren't ready for that game. Right. That was, that's been the last time that we've played them. I would very much like to play them with a team that can, kick their ass. That's what I would like, So, yeah, please, not this year. Hopefully, since they were, a hair's length away from the SEC championship, hopefully they're in a little bit better bowl than the Texas Bowl. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk. We'll break down bowl season when all that goes official. Y'all, thanks for tuning in. We did it 8-4. I can't hardly even believe it. If you'd have told me we were sitting there at 3-3 that we were going to finish at 8-4, I would have said, you are insane. There's no friggin' way. After that Houston game, I was like, this team is toast. There's no way this team is worth a darn. But hey, credit to the kids. Credit to the coaches. They turned the sucker around. I'm very excited to see where we go in the bowl game and next year. Lot to build on. Okay, y'all. A couple of housekeeping items before I let you go. Make sure that you are aware of the fact that you don't have to watch the Biggest 12 or TCU Postgame live on YouTube. We love having you here. But you can also listen to us on your audio platform of your choice. Catch the Biggest 12, catch TCU Postgame live on your favorite audio platform, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, you name it, it's there. Also, make sure that you're tuning in to Mark Rogers, the college football call-in show. Mark is kind of the godfather of the voice of college football here. He's the one who's making this whole thing spin. He's got shows on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, post-game late night, and Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. Make sure you're making that a part of your college football diet as well. Make sure you're subscribing to my show at Big 12 Voice of College Football or at TCU Voice of College Football. Subscribe to both of them. Ring the bells on both of them. Okay, that's where we're doing these things. And follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 and at Clint Foster Comedy on YouTube. And until next week, when we're talking about a bowl game, hopefully, I love you and go Frogs. Sorry.